Live from the House of LeMay Makeup and Dressing Room.
Here comes Amber. Stop what you're doing. Here comes Amber. She's just doing what she can. Here comes Amber. Cue the spotlight. Here comes Amber with 2 drinks in her hand. The matriarch of fashion, secrets to her glasses, you can't look away. Ask her, does she do it? There's really nothing to it. She's got that feminine game. If you have a party, or if you're feeling naughty, call up the House of LeMay. Here comes your favorite gal. Here comes your queen. Here comes the talk of the town. And we're live tonight. The music starts playing. It's time for cabareting. And we're live tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn off all cell phones and get ready for your host, Amber LeMay.
Hello, hello, hello. First, I want you to like, share, and then I want you to pound that subscribe button like it's a last kamikaze shot at last call. All right? You got that? Okay, now it's time for this week's headlines. "40 years ago last week, Ben & Jerry's Homemade opened up their first scoop shop in a former gas station right here in Burlington, Vermont. And the rest is delicious, decadent history. Ben & Jerry's has been working for years to reduce dairy farm greenhouse emissions. The company says that each pint of ice cream leads to about 3.3 pounds of greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the atmosphere and contribute to climate instability. And that same pint also adds about 3.3 pounds to my already bulky body. The project is called Project Mootopia, and it combines a number of techniques, some of which they've used before, and some, like a seaweed-based feed supplement, that are new. To help promote Mootopia, I suggest they create the following flavors and use the proceeds to assist in the undertaking. How about Cow Pie Surprise, or Moo Goo Guy Flan? I like that one. Or Kelp and Kale. That'd be a winner here in Vermont. Now, if you think politics in the United States is messed up, wait till you hear what happened in the Philippines. They held national elections this week to replace term-limited President Rodrigo Duterte, who is also known as the Punisher. And that's not a compliment. So, who's the new head of state? It's Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who goes by the name Bong Bong. Does the name ring a bell? Well, Daddy Marcos reigned as president from 1965 to 1986, with 9 of those years under martial law. It's reported that he and his wife Imelda stole up to $10 billion from the people before being exiled to Hawaii. Daddy died in 1989, but Imelda, the one with the shoe fetish, is still alive at the age of 92. So now it's time for Bong Bong to take over. That would be like if in 36 years we elect Don Jr. or Eric as our president, assuming they are out of prison by then. But why would that stop them? Or us? All right, tonight's show has a Broadway theme to it. And one would think the big news about Broadway this week would be the announcement of the Tony Award nominees. Nope, there's something bigger, and it's got a few people blushing. You may know Jesse Williams as Dr. Jackson Avery on Grey's Anatomy. After leaving that Seattle hospital, Jesse took to the stage and is currently on Broadway in the revival of Take Me Out. Now, the story of the play is as if the New York Yankees were going after their 3rd consecutive World Series. Derek Jeter was breaking all the records, and Jeter announces that he's gay. Imagine Jesse as Jeter, and many scenes take place in the team's locker and shower rooms. And there is nudity. 7 different players are seen changing in and out of uniforms, and there are the shower scenes. Yes, plural, scenes. Now, Russell and I saw the show a few weeks ago, and let's just say from the balcony's third row, we didn't need opera glasses to appreciate Jesse Williams'. And there's the rub. Pictures of a naked Williams popped up this week on social media. Theater goers are required to place their phones and smart devices in a sealed yonder case before the show out of respect and support of our actors and in order to create a phone-free space, according to the producer's website. Well, someone somehow snuck in a camera and released not only pictures, but videos of Williams in the buff. That does not do it justice. Trust me. Oh, and I'm sure his physical attributes had nothing to do with his nomination as Best Featured Actor in a Play. And that's this week's headlines. Yay. All right. Okay, Russell, come on in.
Hey, Amber, how are you?
I'm fine. Do you remember that night we saw Take Me Out in New York?
Not at all.
Oh, well, there
it's
is
a great
nudity,
show. It really is.
But the play is so powerful and it is so good. But it's a shame that someone did that. I mean,
despite your teasing Jesse Williams about his nudity, he does deserve a nomination because he did a great job.
Yes, that whole cast. That whole cast was excellent. So what we got going tonight, Russell?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about the best way to watch because we want everybody to have the best view. And that is on YouTube at youtube.com/AmberLive. And you can find us there and you can find all your friends there in the chat room so you can talk with them during the show if you're not sitting next to them. And you can see Amber in full HD. And then don't forget, we've got a TikTok, an Instagram, a website, and there's new stuff everywhere. So you want to see all of that.
And while you're watching, make sure you do some comments too. We love to look at the comments. So
we do, and we
comment away.
Respond to them sometimes.
Yes.
If you're funny enough, Amber will respond.
And on Wednesday nights, we do our Amber Chat. And that's when we just talk to people from all over the world, actually. And we just talk about what we had for dinner, what we watched on TV, or anything else that comes up in the news. And we had a fun time last week with Leah and Poppy. And so you never know what's going to happen. So stop in on Amber Chat on Wednesday nights.
Yes. And if you enjoy Amber Chat, what helps keep us on the air is your support. And we want to thank you all for that support. It's really important. And we have a message about that right now from Lucy Bell.
Hey, I'm Lucy Bell LeMay. And do you know what time it is? It is time to keep Amber LeMay live and live streaming her fabulousness into your home every Sunday. Want to learn more? Let's join Rusty Peen in the Amber LeMay phone room.
Operators are standing by. Dude, you know what's the best kind of nation? A donation. So give us your money before I drop kick you in the throat, bud. Yup. Amber Live Pledge Drive. Shut up and hold on a minute, bud. Yup.
Okay, that was clear, right? In case you missed the details, it's easy to donate. Simply Venmo to RJD Pro or use the Support Amber Live button on our website to pay by credit card. And for every dollar donated, our anonymous sponsor will match it. So what are you waiting for? A makeover? Let's get those telephones ringing.
And Lucy Bell's right. It is very important that you all donate to us during pledge season because we've got that anonymous donor who is doubling your pledge up to the first $500. And we've had some great pledges already from the first week we had Judy Alexander, and then last week Larry Lamore and Stacy Green, one of our Amber Chat friends. and everybody's starting to chip in. So if you can chip in and get us over that $500, it'll be a huge help. So thank you to everybody for helping during the pledge drive.
That's great. That's just great. What's next, Russell?
Oh, well, next is our guest for the evening, and Amber has just been wetting herself over this one. She was very excited for months and weeks and saying, we've got to get this guy, we've got to get this guy. And this guy is Bill Rudman, who is the gentleman who started the Musical Theater Project and who also has a show called On the Aisle, I believe, on Sirius Radio FM and in a lot of public stations. I think he's on about 100 different stations around the country. And if you're a fan of musical theater, if you like music, if you like musicals, anything, he is incredibly knowledgeable. Like, you won't believe what this man knows. And he shares his stories and his information with Amber. So it's going to be a great
afternoon. It was a great afternoon spending with Bill. So let's get started with that interview right now. One of the interviews I've been totally looking forward to for many, many weeks is with Bill Rudman. Now, if you listen to SiriusXM, the On Broadway channel, like I do, you're familiar with Bill's work with his On the Aisle program. So let's talk to him about that. Bill, come on in.
Hey, Amber, and I got to say, I've been looking forward to this for weeks myself.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That is so cool. So I'm familiar with your work, but tell us about what you do for a living.
Well, I'm lucky enough to get to do exactly what I love, which is to spread the word about the miraculous art form that we call the American musical. And I've been in love with the American musical since I was in kindergarten. That goes back a long time. And I bet what did it for me, it could have happened for you as well, Amber. It was Mary Martin doing Peter Pan on TV.
Oh, yes. It was black and white, but we didn't care, did we? We saw the magic. We saw the magic. So how are you able to do this, working with, who do you work for or work with? And tell us about that.
Well, I've done several things within my career. I won't bore you with the details, but to get right to the core, 24 years ago, I founded a nonprofit organization. It's called the Musical Theater Project. Surprisingly enough, it's located in Cleveland. You wouldn't expect to find a nonprofit dealing with Broadway in Cleveland, but you wouldn't expect to find the Rock Hall here either necessarily. So, so I started it 24 years ago, and I've built it brick by brick by brick, and I even make a living doing it. So, what do you think about that?
We have a video that tells us a little bit more about that. So let's watch that.
Okay, great.
I think we all discover musicals when we're kids. I mean, I was just 5 years old when my parents told me I could stay up late one night and watch Peter Pan on TV. I got so keyed up, I could not sleep at all that night. And it's no wonder, because musicals are filled with joy.
It makes me feel good.
It's so deeply emotional.
It opens a window into the human condition.
And it can mean so many things to different people.
I think what's so special about it is the synergy of it. It combines all the art forms in one glorious art form.
America is about synthesis, and musical theater is about synthesis.
You've got singing, you've got dancing, you have dialogue, you have scenic design and costume design.
The story that it tells.
All of that stuff coming together, that is really, really powerful.
And I think it helps to teach us about each other, about our American culture. And if musical theater were to disappear altogether, we would lose that whole collective experience of our American past.
The Musical Theater Project is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to sharing and celebrating the art form of musical theater, which is uniquely our own. It's American. We invented it. And so we have more than 100 years of repertoire that we can share and explore and identify with in new ways.
So we have these key words to describe us: produce, preserve, and inspire. And that really does cover the waterfront.
And it's entertainment At the same time, it's education and appreciation.
That really delves into the history of musical theater and fleshes out different shows and composers.
And that makes it extra special. I learned more than I've ever known about that show before.
It's about helping people make their own personal connections with this great American art form.
They're always looking for innovative ways to share with the community.
So we have to have a lot of things in our bag of tricks. We have to be able to communicate in many different ways on many different levels to give people whatever tools they want to get the best experience out of this that they can possibly have. All I ever wanted was to share musical theater with audiences. So I've been so lucky because in this organization we get to do that in radio shows, concerts, cabarets, a school program, recordings. All of that is a gift that we want to give you.
Wow. Where is that beautiful auditorium that most of that took place?
That was in, where was it? That was in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. I haven't seen that for a long time, Amber. Thanks for showing it. It brought a couple tears to my eyes.
Oh, I'm sure.
It really adds up a lot of stuff.
So do you have a physical building for the theater project?
No, we all, like just about everybody these days, we work remotely. But that's okay with me. Much of what I do is writing. And you know that from On the Aisle on Sirius. So I'm perfectly happy to be in my office and have it quiet.
Well, some of the different projects that the MTP does.
Well, the radio show, actually, if you've been listening to it on Sirius, you've probably been listening for about 14 years, but it actually goes back. I started it 38 years ago in Cleveland. And then it became nationally syndicated and eventually wound up on Sirius, which is a real kick for me. We do concerts and cabarets. I call them docu-concerts because we're not just doing live performances of songs from a musical or musicals. I do commentary on, what makes something special in a musical. Why is Falling in Love with Love a great song? And so we do those, and we do have the school program. And it's funny that we're talking right now because just before I got on, I was watching the 1957 movie version of The Pajama Game, because another one of our programs is called Let's Go to the Movies at Home. And if anybody gets onto our website and signs up, you'll get an intro on video from me about whatever the movie musical is. You'll get a week to see the movie musical. And then we do an online discussion that usually lasts 90 minutes with people from all over the country who just have to talk about whatever the musical is. And we even have our own little record label. It's called Harbinger Records. We specialize in musical theater, and we've won a Grammy, and we've been nominated for another Grammy, and I've talked too much. So that's the answer to your question.
Oh, no. I love hearing your voice. What does your record label do? What type of?
Well, it's all musical theater related. And right now I'm working on two that will be, I hope, attractive to collectors. If you know the work of Nancy Ford and Gretchen Cryer, who wrote I'm Getting My Act Together and Taking It on the Road in the 70s. They were the first writing team for the musical theater, female writing team, to write a mainstream musical that was anti-war. They were the first to write about the dangers of technology. They were the first to write a mainstream feminist musical. They were always way ahead of their time. They're both still with us. They're very close friends of mine, and that's going to be a 3 CD set. So that's at the top of my list right now.
You talked about how Mary Martin and Peter Pan made the spark with you. Well, what happened to your life between being that 4-year-old child and you starting MTP?
Well, I'd like to answer. I'm going to pretend you asked me a different question, which is, what was it about Peter Pan that got me? And I'm only going to answer it if you answer it too, because I think there are millions of baby boomers who were affected by it. And I can tell you why I was, and I want to know why you were. For me, I got so keyed up by it because it was the idea that the story was being told with characters who were expressing their emotions, their deepest emotions. And I had never seen anything like that before or heard anything like that before. And that just got to me. It got to my heart. And I still remember, these were the days of LPs, of course, my parents, who were great, the very next day, they called a department store in Cleveland called Halley Brothers. And do you remember when they used to call people mailmen? We had a mailman in our neighborhood. And I remember the day when the mailman came to the house with a package, and I opened it up, and it was the Peter Pan LP. And I still have that edition of the LP. It's unplayable now, but I still have it because it's one of the things that I treasure most in my life. So Amber, how about you? What got you?
It was the magic. It was watching people my age singing and performing, and I thought, oh, I want to do that. That looks like so much fun, and just it grabbed me through the screen to tell the story, and I said that's something I'd like to do someday, is have the ability to do that, and it looked like fun.
Well, and your producer tells me that you're a performer in your own right.
Yes. My drag character, Bob, played Thénardier in a production of Les Mis. I've been Rooster and Annie 2 times.
Oh, great role.
oh, yes. Very, very good. Education. What education do you have, Bill?
Well, I went to a tiny little college called Hiram that's in this area, but it was this was in 1969-70. And Hiram was very close to Kent State geographically. I was a freshman in college the year of the Kent State shootings, which made me immediately very political. And it was quite a time to be growing up, as we know, in the late 60s, early 70s. I'm so worried about where we are now. I know this isn't a political discussion, but I'm so frightened of our potential loss of what it means to be a democratic society. I can tie it up to musical theater, though, because I think of the American musical as primarily a Jewish American art form. Certainly in terms of the songwriters who were most important during the golden age. And most of them were highly political. And there's so much musical theater writing that is very, very progressive that I love to expose people to.
It's about the evolution of Broadway musical. Where would you say its roots were, and some of the steps along the way to what we have now?
Oh, I'll give you a 30-second answer, or we'll be here all day. I think that, the roots are in European operetta. But the guy who really made it American was, of course, George M. Cohan at the turn of the 20th century. And from Cohan on, you get into the musical comedies of the 20s and 30s, and you were talking Rodgers and Hart and the Gershwin brothers and Cole Porter. Tremendously exciting. I think there are a number of golden ages, you see. And so that's another golden age. And then you get to Rodgers and Hammerstein, for sure a golden age. And the storytelling became more important. The depth of the characters became more important. And then I think Stephen Sondheim is a golden age all unto himself. And I started writing to him when I was in high school. And I feel so honored because he took me seriously and he wrote back. And, I don't think that I'm special because, Amber, we know that Sondheim considered himself a teacher. And he took hundreds of people interested in musicals under his wing in one way or another. I mean, I would only consider myself an acquaintance of his, but the correspondence lasted for decades. And he gave me the confidence to think that whatever my career would turn out to be, I could have a career in musical theater. He had some faith in me, and God, I was lucky.
Is there a book there with your correspondence?
Is there a book? No, they were, I mean, it was mostly short notes and so on. However, probably the peak experience in my life artistically is that I knew him well enough in 1973 to ask him if I could not only attend the original production of A Little Night Music, but if I could come to the recording session. And I was in that recording session, which lasted, I think, 14 hours. And it was totally thrilling. And I took notes for 14 hours, and I got to sit in the control room. Sondheim was there, and Goddard Lieberson was producing that album. And we know he was immortal in terms of producing cast albums. And a friend of Sondheim's who was an actor, Sondheim took both of us out for drinks after the recording session. And then he put me in a taxi, and I went back to the Piccadilly Hotel on West 45th Street. Peak experience artistically.
How exciting. Well, we have a lot more to talk about, Bill, and we will right after this break. See you then.
Okay.
Yep. We'll be right back with Bill Rudman. But first, one of our new segments of the show, Amber Live Update. Keeping with the Broadway theme, this week's Amber Live Update is about Justin Squiggs Robertson. Now, Squiggs is one of Broadway's most prolific illustrator and caricature artists and has appeared several times on Amber Live. During one of his visits, he demonstrated his art by drawing me, himself, and fellow guest Francois Clemens. How cool was that? Thank you, Squiggs. Well, this week, Squiggs was busy completing his Tony nominee collages, such as this one for Best Musical and this one for Best Revival of a Play. I guess he chose to keep the clothes on the Take Me Out guys. You can see all of his work on his website, squiggsonline.com, on Facebook, and many other platforms. Make sure you check out his Lights of Broadway show cards. Not sure if bubblegum is included or not. And now, back to Bill Rudman. All right, we're returning our conversation with Bill Rudman. And now, Bill, I'd like to talk to you about your weekly show on SiriusXM, On the Aisle. You said it's been going on for several years.
It's been on Sirius. I've been on for 14 years, and I first started the radio program just locally 38 years ago. So I've been doing it for a long, long time. And on there, people say, and you know this, Amber, people say, well, how do you get the ideas for these shows? Or, and I just say to them, are you kidding? I could come up with 10 ideas every day, because we're talking about this repertoire of classic American song, thousands and thousands and thousands of songs, and mixing and matching them and putting them together in interesting ways. I live for that.
You have every week there's a theme. Give us some of your themes that I know.
Oh boy, now am I going to draw a blank here? I think one of my favorite themes was a show that I called Unrequitedly Yours, where it was all songs about unrequited love. So I think I opened that show with Garland doing "The Man That Got Away" from Star Is Born, and so all the songs linked up to that theme. And in addition to the themes, I've been lucky enough to interview some really extraordinary creators of musicals, including Sheldon Harnick. I did a 3-part show with Sheldon Harnick, John Kander.
Now, Sheldon Harnick, please inform my viewers on who Sheldon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sheldon Harnick. She Loves Me and Fiddler on the Roof and Fiorello, Pulitzer Prize-winning musical. John Kander, of course, famous for Cabaret and Chicago. And I mean, I'm saying I'm drawing blanks, but so many, including a songwriter that is not well known by name, but if I tell you that he wrote the songs for Meet Me in St. Louis, that would help. And his name is Hugh Martin. I got to be very close with Hugh when he was in his 90s. He's passed since then, but he used to call me. He lived on the West Coast, and he would call me every Saturday afternoon after he had heard On the Aisle on the radio, and he would have comments about the show and questions, and that was just so much fun.
Your interview with Barbara Cook that you aired recently, that
thank you for
fascinating.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when Sondheim passed, you had I think it was 3 weeks you had interviews about him, and that was fascinating.
Yeah, that was with the boy. If anybody doesn't know this book, go out and get it. It's the Sondheim Encyclopedia, and it's written by Rick Pender. It would have taken me 2 lifetimes to write that book. He told me he did it in 4 years, and everybody who loves Sondheim must have this book. And yeah, I did a 4-parter with Rick on that.
One of the themes I really enjoyed was composers singing their own music. That was cool. Was it Hammerstein who did Oklahoma?
Yeah, he recited lyrics from Oklahoma.
He recited.
I don't know about you, Amber, but I often prefer a songwriter's interpretation of his or her own work better than just about anybody's, because they go so deep inside the song to create it that when they interpret it, if it's just reading the lyric or if it's singing, and a lot of them were really terrific singers in their own idiosyncratic way. I find that terribly exciting. I love those.
They don't need to have a voice. It's the feeling that they had when they wrote the song that can help a singer work it as well. I'm trying to think of some of the other
Sondheim, for example. There are 2 CDs or 3 of Sondheim singing his own songs.
Yes.
And he was not a quote unquote trained singer, but oh my God, they're great renditions,
I love the story about the opening number of Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Can you relate that story?
Yeah, and actually that's somebody else I got to interview. George Abbott directed that show, and this was in 1962, and he had been directing since the 1920s, and he was the master of farce. And he in rehearsal, and then when it began previews, it was a flop. It wasn't working at all. And Abbott said to his colleagues, Larry Gelbart, Bert Shevelov, Stephen Sondheim, I don't know, they don't like it. I don't know why they don't like it. You better bring in George Abbott to fix it. And what they did was bring in Jerome Robbins. And it was Jerome Robbins who had the idea for Sondheim creating what we know as Comedy Tonight to open the show. And it turned it around. All of a sudden, everybody loved not just the opening, but the whole show. And I got to interview Abbott when he was 99 years and 11 months old. And he had it all together. It was a terrific interview.
I think it was Tommy Tune or someone said the opening number, you have to get them right at the beginning.
Right. And Hammerstein said that if the opening number works, I think this is a direct quote. Hammerstein said, if it works, you can ride for the next 45 minutes on the telephone book. And it doesn't matter. That's how important the opening is. And I interviewed Tommy Tune as well. I hate to be bragging about the interview shows, but in all cases, these major creators gave me so much in these conversations. And I just think that those are important historically to have those, you know?
Definitely. Well, they know that all of their material doesn't get printed or published or out there, so
right.
they want it. I think they want to share. I think that is.
I think you're right. And John Kander, I had to really twist his arm because he's very shy, and he said, "Oh, I just," and he got there into the studio, and I got him talking, and I made it clear that it was going to be very low key. Nothing high powered, and he was one of the best interview subjects I've ever had.
How about Liza? Have you interviewed Liza?
Haven't interviewed Liza. I have not interviewed Cheetah either. I mean, there's a short list of people I would love to, but the Barbara Cook thing, I'm glad you heard that.
Yes.
Actually, I interviewed her when I was only 35. And I listen to those tapes now, and I can really hear it. I wasn't very good back then. I'm a lot better now than I used to be in the mid-1980s. I'm 71.
Now, was it during that interview you talked about the song "Till There Was You," that it wasn't flying, or
it was almost cut? Yeah. That's happened to any number of great songs that had to be saved. And what's the famous example of the song that was cut? It was cut 4 times before. What am I thinking of, Amber?
I'm not sure.
It was cut 4 times before, and it's from an MGM musical. Oh, It's Over the Rainbow.
Yes.
The suits at MGM thought that it was holding up the picture and that it should be cut. And Arthur Freed and Yip Harburg had to fight for it. And it finally got put in, and the rest is history.
You also, it's not only Broadway musicals, but you also feature movie musicals that
right.
Never. Why? I'm just curious.
Well, it's a slightly different art form, the way it works. And I think it's just important because we get to see the musical from another vantage point. Although I mentioned earlier, I'm watching the Pajama Game film right now, which George Abbott had directed on Broadway, and which he co-directed for the film version with Stanley Donen, who's one of the great movie musical directors. And when you watch the Pajama Game now, you get a real sense of what the Broadway show was like. You don't get Janice Page, but you do get Doris Day. And who's better than Doris Day? And you get John Raitt from the Broadway cast, the only movie musical he ever made.
Oh my goodness. Now, okay, what was the story about Carousel that Frank Sinatra was supposed to be in Carousel, and they were getting ready to shoot? Did I hear that story on your show?
Yeah, and I hope I'm going to tell it right. Sinatra found out that because of the way it was being filmed, because there were new technologies, that he would have to film each scene twice. And that was enough. He just walked off.
Yeah. Days before production.
Yeah, indeed.
And so who did they call?
So they gave it to Gordon McRae.
Yeah, he was in Buffalo,
Shirley
I think.
Jones was already cast, and Gordon and Shirley had just done Oklahoma the year before for 20th Century Fox, so they got to do another film together.
Now, some musicals do well in being put to film. some not so well. What are your favorite musicals that have made the transition to film? And what are some that said, no, that didn't cut it?
Oh, come on. You answer that one first, and then I'll answer, and I'll tag along.
Okay. I think Oklahoma and Music Man very well look like stage shows, or, represent well. A Chorus Line, not so much.
A Chorus Line, I think, is a disaster. I watched it when it was first released, and I've not been able to see it ever since.
No. All right. We've got more to talk about with Bill Rudman, and we will right after this break. There's even more of the Bill Rudman interview. I just love listening to his stories. But Russell, it's time for you to come in now.
Hey, oh my God, Bill is so enjoyable to listen to. And
I love his voice. I listen to his show every Saturday afternoon at 3:00 on SiriusXM, the Broadway channel. It's just fascinating to listen to him. Well, we've got more in the show to come up as well, don't we, Russell?
Oh, we have so much more to come. We have Amber's Rants and Raves are still coming. We have a new segment with Dwayne Scott Cierney called Amber's Mailbag. And we have Rocco. So there's and it's MALE bag, Amber's Mailbag. So there's a lot to come. But first, I do want to remind everybody about the pledge drive. And here's a little message from the man with 3 names.
Hey, do you know what month it is? I'm not even sure what day it is, but it's the month of May. And May is fundraising month for Amber LeMay. So if you love Amber, and I know you do because you're watching the show, or you love Russell, or Rocco Zamboni, or Emoji Nightmare, or Lucy Bell, or that guy with 3 names, or Rusty peeing in a beer can, in the can, whatever that's about, then you need to donate because it's time. We told you how to do it. Just do it. We need you. Let's keep this show going. It's fun. More fun coming. Bye-bye.
And Dwayne is right. We do need your help to get to that $500 of our matching donor. So if you can chip in, we would love that. So thank you very much. And there, of course, is always one other way you can show your support, and that's by spending some money with our sponsor.
Summertime, and it's time for vacation. Where would I want to go? I know. I think I'd like to go to the beach. Don't worry, I'm bringing my vodka with me. Oh, wow. If I'm going to the beach, you know what? I'm going to need some beach towels. Where can I get some quality beach towels? Oh, I know. AmberLive.tv. There's a bunch of collection of really nice towels. And, how about some T-shirts and some muscle shirts? Those would look nice on the beach. And let's see. If it gets cool at night at the clam bake, what am I going to wear? I better take along my Amber Live TV sweatshirt. Yes, that would be fun to wear. And then at night, at night, I don't have to order anything because I already have my Amber Live TV pillow. Oh, so soft. You're going to love it. And then the next morning, what are you going to need? You're going to need an Amber Live mug to drink your coffee or whatever you want to put in it. And if you haven't gotten enough peen lately, check out our Rusty Peen collection. Everyone wants more peen. All this and more is available at amberlive.tv. Order yours today. Yes. Oh, the vacation's coming. I know that it is. And that reminds me of this week's Rantin' and Ravin'. So, you know what? I'm starting off this week with a rave. Spring has sprung in Vermont. After a week of rain and clouds, this past week has been nothing but sunshine and warm weather. The leaves are out, flowers have blossomed, the birds are singing. It's beautiful. Now, for my rant, it's for the people who are already saying, it's too hot out, and not with a smile on their face either. You know what? Here's my response. I'll slap you. And now back to chapter 3 of our interview with Bill Rudman. All right, we're back with Bill Rudman from the Musical Theater Project, and we're talking Broadway. And so now, Bill, I'd like to talk to you about COVID. You know, COVID closed down Broadway for a year and a half, 2 years. Were there any advantages to that? Any changes that you see that are going to happen because of that?
I don't know. That's a very, very good question. And I've not made it back to Broadway since COVID hit. Like you and gazillions of other people, I want to see Hugh Jackman in The Music Man. But I've not made it back there. And I mean, COVID hurt all arts organizations tremendously, including ours. We couldn't do our live concerts for 2 years. And it's a good thing that I have the radio show, because the radio show wasn't affected. But it was because of COVID that we started this online series of sharing movie musicals with people. So in that respect, that was a good thing that came out of COVID for us. But I sure can't think of anything else. Can you?
My show.
Okay.
Burlington closed down on, I believe it was March 16th. I did my first show on March 22nd, and Russell and I have been at it ever since. So
God love you.
I wouldn't have been talking to you right now if it wasn't for COVID.
Don't you think radio as a medium is addictive? I mean,
definitely, because you don't have to.
Addictive. We hope it's addictive for the listener, but it sure is addictive for those of us who get to host, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. It gave me an outlet. It gave me a chance to talk to fascinating people, present company included, and some things were very good. How often do you get, before COVID? How often did you go to New York to see shows?
7 or 8 times a year, I would say. Yeah. You know, I'm in Cleveland, but it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to get to New York. It takes an hour to get there. So it's easy enough.
What was the last show you saw?
Oh, I am drawing a blank here. You'd have to remind me of what was playing that season, and I'll tell you. But if you want to talk about contemporary musical theater, I will go on record. I mean, we all know that Hamilton is a landmark, but I also want to give props to what I think is a masterpiece, and that's Fun Home. I think Fun Home is it's out of sight. The writing is so great in an entirely different way from Hamilton, obviously. And Come From Away, I think, is a great
Come From Away.
and Evan Hansen. I mean, these are truly important works that move. All of those shows move me to tears, you know.
Fun Home, written by Alison Bechtel from Vermont.
Yes. Yeah. Vermont, your stomping grounds. Yeah.
Yes. One genre of musicals that's become popular over the years is the jukebox musical.
Oh God, do we have to talk about that?
How would you describe a jukebox musical?
Well, I think most of them aren't really musicals. Now, the Carole King jukebox musical. Do you like that?
Yes.
I do too. I think that's sort of the exception in all of them, because the songs are woven together in such a way that they really add up in a theatrical whole, WHOLE. But most of the rest of the jukebox musicals, I have no use for them. I'm sorry to be
No. One Broadway aficionado told me, I asked them the question, they go, it's laziness.
Yeah, but I guess we have to give them their due in that so many of them have become tremendously popular. And, you know, if it's a jukebox musical that gets a 16-year-old kid in to see his or her first musical, and then they go on and realize there are things that really tell stories in in ways that run deeper than the jukebox musicals do, I say, great, whatever it takes to get them into the theater. I mean, don't you worry about young people who've had very little experience in the theater? You know, we're sort of, the baby boomers are sort of the last generation that grew up on musicals.
With arts in the school, yeah.
And yeah. And, you know, our parents bought LPs that we wore out. But I worry about younger generations. And it's one reason we have a school program in my nonprofit organization, is to introduce kids to musical theater and hopefully get them on the way to seeing and hearing more.
Now, there's musicals that you mentioned that you were raving about, Fun Home, Come From Away, Evan Hansen, Hamilton. Those were all original works, you know, both the music and the story.
Right.
There are so many now that are musicals that are developed from movies or television shows. What's your opinion on those?
It all depends. I think for heaven's sake, My Fair Lady was based on a play called Pygmalion.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with taking source material from another medium and turning it into a musical, as long as there's something about the source material that lends itself to being turned into a musical. You know, Sondheim always said that the show that he wrote with Richard Rodgers and Arthur Lawrence, Do I Hear a Waltz? It was not successful because it was what Richard Rodgers' daughter Mary called a Y musical. In other words, the original play, The Time of the Cuckoo by Lawrence, it didn't need to be turned into a musical. But lots of other source material is great for musical theater, you know.
Has there been a show or shows that you've seen and you went, wow, this is going to be the next best thing, and then just didn't go anywhere?
You go first, and I'll think about my
You're
That's a
bailing
really
on
good
me.
question, though. Something that you or I thought was really terrific, but it didn't actually wind up flying. What would you say?
I'd have to think about it as well. How about something that you went, oh God, this is a dog, and then it wins 5 Tonys?
You know, this is something kind of weird about me. I don't say that most musicals are dogs. I could never be a theater critic, because I would be too easy on whatever the show was. For me, what I want to pay attention to is, what did the artists who created it, what did they want to do? What was their intention? And if I can see that the intention was there, and that the intention is clear, and that the work had integrity, then even if it's a flawed musical, I really tend not to look at the flaws very much. I just applaud that they got it on stage and that they had something they wanted to say, and damn it all, they said it. I think that's what's important here.
Is there a show that you'd like to see a revival made?
Well, of course, any show by Stephen Sondheim. And I think he was so fortunate that in his later years, virtually all of his shows were revived. Yeah. And in some cases, not just once, but twice on Broadway. And now we have this true revisionist work, The Treatment of Company. Yes. That he loved the concept for it being done with a female cast. I think, or the Oklahoma that was done several years ago. That may have been the last thing I saw before the pandemic. I was swept away by the concept. And actually, Ted Chapin, who until recently ran Rodgers and Hammerstein, he gave that revival, that revisal, that rethinking, he gave it his blessing, and he loves it. He loved it as much as I did.
Oh, the soundtrack not the soundtrack, the original cast album is, I just love the simplicity of it. Just the rawness, the simplicity, it's magical.
And the sound of it, that it was given this sort of country sound without, as Ted would say, without changing a note of what Richard Rodgers wrote melodically, without changing a word of what of the words that Hammerstein wrote. I think that was a triumph, and I think it's going to be done in London. I may be wrong.
I hope it tours. The gentleman you just mentioned, I loved his interview that you had with him.
Oh, Ted Chapin. I've interviewed Ted Chapin more than anybody because he is so exciting to interview. He talks real fast, and I tape the show, so I have to go back and edit them. And as I've always said to him, Ted, you're so hard to edit because you are talking 98 miles an hour. But it's always worth it because he has great insights on musical theater and talk about just being fun. He's so much fun to interview.
You mentioned about changing words. There's a little controversy in Music Man about them changing the words to shapoopy.
Can you explain this to me? Because, if you're gonna be politically correct, the song that I would think they would revise would be The Sadder But Wiser Girl for Me. I would think that might be considered a little politically incorrect. Why the heck would you do anything with shapoopy?
I don't know. It could have, I think if they felt they had to purify, you think if they thought they had to purify it for this day and age, maybe at the end, Harold Hill says to Marcellus, boy, I love the way men think now. I wonder if we'll get away with this forever or something like that. Or 100 years from now, we're still going to be doing this. Rather than change the words to the song because someone complained.
I don't know. It's a slippery slope when you talk about edits that are made for reasons of political correctness.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I understand, but there are other times I don't get it.
It took place in America.
You judge any musical or any piece of art by taking a look at the times in which it was written. And, Music Man is a 1957 show that came out of 1957 America. That's part of what makes it special, is to watch it and think a little bit about where we were as Americans in 1957.
Bill, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Both of us could talk for a couple more hours.
Oh, we could. And I'll just invite myself back. If you ever want me back, I'm here because I've had as much fun, if not more, than you have.
All right. All right. Very good. Thank you so much, and take care. And I can't wait to check in on your weekly movie that you do with the musicals as well.
Okay.
All right. Thanks you very much, Bill.
Real pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Give my regards to Broadway and Bill Rudman. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much, Bill Rudman. That was fascinating, and I will be talking to him again. And now here's another new segment of our show, which, to tell you the truth, I haven't seen yet. But they tell me it's Amber's Mailbag. Take it away.
Hey, guy with three names here. Since surpassing the 100th episode here at Amber LeMay Live, Russell has asked me to begin responding to the countless calls and emails and death threats the show has received over the past 2 years and create Amber's Mailbag. So this first question comes from someone in prison, which is really not surprising given our vast demographics of those convicted and penally inserted. First up, does Amber make her own beautiful fashions? No, she doesn't. She has an exclusive costumer and has her own little people, and we mean little. Amber broadcasts, as you know, from her basement in Burlington, Vermont, which also doubles as a sweatshop. Of fashion, of course. The basement has a very low ceiling, which is perfect for sewing machines, stoop shoulders, and a bevy of pocket drag queens with superior stitching skills. It's these little known facts. Just learn something new every time you watch this darn show, don't you? Well, the next question comes from Queens. And either that's the burr or the lifestyle. We don't know. Is Russell as nice in real life as he is on the show? Yeah, unfortunately. He makes it difficult for the rest of us, who comprise the 3 Ds, depressed, disillusioned, and determined to be as unhappy as possible. So yes, his sunshiny disposition eclipses the darkening gloom on all the rest of us. Well, next up, someone with the initials AA asks, does Rusty Peen have a drinking problem? No, absolutely not. Not since he discovered Uber drinks. No problem finding alcohol at all. He could improve his recycling skills, however, but that's another episode of Aluminum Hoarders Intervention, the Rusty Peen Can Collection. Relatedly, a fan from the Windy City writes, is Lucy Bell easily delightful or delightfully easy? Well, that depends how hot she gets over the stove. But I may need to get back to you on that one. As you know, Rocco Zamboni has many followers, mostly because he keeps the ice so clean both in his refrigerator and on the rink. A viewer asks, how can a man so cosmopolitan have the last name Zamboni? Well, we researched it, and it's an old Italian family name, meaning, get out of my face, you scumbag. Emoji Nightmare is now going to be a regular on the show, and of course, she's a household name, both typographically and in various sleep studies. Question directed to her, how many cans of Aquanet does it take to change her hairdo? Only one, but the hairdo has to really want to change. And lastly, and certainly least, me, myself, and I'm embarrassed to say, how many people write in requesting free appraisals of me or to simply ask me to stop talking? I'm touched. Inappropriately, of course. Unfortunately, I no longer offer free appraisals after a terrible incident involving an antique show roadie, 2 men in a truck, and a vintage can of Crisco that was undervalued due to its medicinal properties. How could I know that? It's a long story of depravity, which we will talk about later. I hope I was able to answer some of your questions tonight, notwithstanding litigiousness. So keep those inappropriate emails coming. Send to ambersmailbag@yahoo.com. And no, that's not a typo.
Like I said, I hadn't seen that before, but something that I have seen is Rocco Zamboni, and I can't wait to see what he's come up with this week.
Oh, hey, how you doing, Amber, and everybody else out there watching? So all this talk about musical theater's got me thinking, I like musical theater. It's fun. Matter of fact, I just got back with our boy Russell. We went and saw The Music Man. Now, of course, I was thrilled to see this really old show because Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster were in it. Who's Hugh Jackman, you're saying? Come on. Wolverine and stuff. Anyway, you guys are crazy. And so Sutton Foster's a hottie. I'm into her. I dig her. Anyway, she wouldn't talk to me after the show, but that's for another night. So, this show, The Music Man, has to do with some guy. He's a swindler and stuff. trying to sell, get this is how dated this crap is. He goes to a town and tries to sell them on the idea of a marching band. A marching band. That's how this guy's going to make his money? You're going to tell me? And then he's trying to win over this librarian because you got to throw in the usual, romance crap. So here we got Hugh Jackman, and then we got Sutton Foster, right? Now, his whole thing is, I'm going to sell you a marching band because that's where the big bucks are. So, oh, hey, baby, how you doing? Oh, who the hell are you? I'm Lyle Landley. Or what the hell was it? Oh, Herbert Hill. Hey, how you doing? I'm Herbert Hill. She's like, no, you're not. You're a shyster. He's like, yeah, come here. Oh, you got to do the marching band. It's great. That's because she's horny. And that's what I'm talking about. These old-time shows, they're pretty interesting, but they're so dated, it's crazy. So what they did is they threw in some fancy-ass choreography, some really decent sets and stuff, and they threw Wolverine out there for all the ladies and all the guys, too, because let's face it, as guys look at Hugh Jackman and say, damn right. And the show was actually fun. Now, my favorite show, I'll be honest, one of my favorite shows is Little Shop of Horrors because I dig plants and stuff. But this was fun. So if you find yourself in New York City and you're thinking, hey, Music Man, what the hell? I might as well check it out. Go check it out, because what do you got to lose? Besides, Sutton Foster's looking mighty fine. You got that? You call Rocco. We'll talk, all right? I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you, Rocco. Oh, it's been a great week. I just want to say before we leave, thank you so much to everyone who came out to Winter Was a Drag Ball last night. We'll have some pictures next week, but it was a great event. Thank you so much to Higher Ground, to 7 Days. We had a great story in 7 days this week, and just for everyone for participating. And that's it. But next week, wait, Russell, tell us what's happening next week.
Next week, oh my God, you're thinking ahead, Amber. We have a very busy week next week. We have Dixie Longate visiting us. We have two gentlemen who own a Frank Lloyd Wright house that are going to come in and talk about it. They're our gay power couple. We're doing a series of gay power couples. And then we also have our friends from a show that you and I have a dear connection to, Saucy Jack and the Space Vixen. So they'll all be stopping in. So it's going to be a busy week.
And we're in a film festival too, aren't we?
Oh, you're right. Oh my goodness. I almost forgot about the film festival. We are in the Merced Queer Film Festival, which is started on the 19th, or starts on the 19th. And the other night, Amber's alter ego Bob had to jump in, and myself and Jack were all interviewed by the gentleman who I think runs it on his Instagram Live. But we also have that interview if you didn't get to see it, and it's on our YouTube page. So at youtube.com/AmberLive, you can go see that interview. And we have Sweaty Balls is in the festival. And keep your fingers crossed, and because we are up for best music video. So let's hope we get it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Russell.
Thank you. Have a great week.
All right. It's been a busy week. We got another busy week coming up, but we'll see you back here next Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on Amber Live. Come on, Boog and Shug. Bring it on.
Boog, you ever seen a horse fly? Shug, I ain't never seen this show fly. I really don't know what this joke means, Russell.